Welcome to Something to Talk About, a lively hour of open discussion covering, well, anything and everything. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, husband, father, and military veteran, and Vaughn Loick, wife, mother, and best-selling author. Now, Something to Talk About. Stuart and Vaughn.
It is so good to hear that intro, and Stuart and Vaughn, and actually, she is Vaughn.
Vaughn is in the house.
Vaughn is in the house. Whoopee, whoopee, whoopee. Oh,
it's good to be back.
Great to see you, and you know we certainly miss you when you're not here, but we know why, because you are taking care of our kiddos.
Yes.
in school, and that's great. And have you had some good kids?
I've had great kids. I did. I subbed the last 3 Fridays in a row now, and gosh, yeah, and they're just so fun. I never leave because I teach anywhere between kindergarten and 5th grade, and I never leave school without at least 3 funny stories. It's true what they say out of the mouths of babes.
Yeah.
They just say. And the way they pronounce my name is funny, and
kids say the darndest things.
Kids say the darndest things, and so they just make me giggle, and I love teaching them, and I love seeing them, learn, and it's a fun day, and I love helping out our teachers here, because our teachers need a break too, and it's hard for them to get away. They can't just leave work. I mean, it's not like they're just leaving a desk full of papers. They're leaving a classroom full of little human beings. So
right, and most of the time when they need to get off, like for a doctor's appointment or something, that's the same hours that they're normally in school.
Right, and so they've got to find somebody to take over the classroom, or they'll take their classroom if they can't find somebody to substitute for them, and they'll divide up their classroom. So then other teachers in that same grade, on that grade level, will have now an additional 6 kids, 10 kids, however many. So it's not.
Do you usually go to the same school, or you'll go wherever they send you?
No, I kind of pick and choose. So Frisco ISD is pretty big, and we have I think we're probably up to 18, 20, maybe even into the elementary schools. So even if you stay in your district, you could find yourself driving a half an hour away to get to an elementary school. So
especially at that time of the day.
Oh my gosh!
When every other street is 20 miles an hour.
So I really don't need to do that, because I've got a handful of schools right around, and
within a mile or two.
Yeah. Those of you in Frisco, I go to Corbell, Bledsoe, Vaughn Elementary. Yes, there's an elementary named Vaughn. Not named after me, but like it.
There's a Pink.
I have not been there, actually. I have Kurt Singer, Bledsoe, if I've not said that, Bright, and Spears. But mainly Corbell. That seems, a lot of times when you substitute teach, you get to know the teachers. Right. And so then before you even walk out the door, sometimes someone's grabbing you. To come in for them, and
if they know you're good and you're available, they want to keep you
right
on their bench.
Yeah, and you're talking about being good. I can't get this on.
Okay.
I don't know why. You're talking about being a good. The thing about being a substitute teacher, if you take it seriously, you're not just going in to babysit the class while the teacher's out. Right. If you want to be good and effective and productive and be called back and all that, go in with the intention of actually taking over that classroom and teaching in the way that the teacher has left instructions to follow. You don't want to just take over, but I'm saying go in with the intent of actually teaching these kids, which I do.
Yeah, like you say, you're not there to just babysit. You're there to carry on the curriculum that they've already started.
Exactly, which I prefer. I would never want to just go sit and babysit and put so.
Unless it's like kindergarten.
But I've often wanted to do a show on teaching / substitute teaching. It's such a different kind of work. Environment, yes, but I know we're going to talk a little bit about the workplace, but it's just a very unique position. I mean, what a teacher is expected to do, and or even a substitute teacher, you're teaching, you're counseling, you're a disciplinarian, you're a manager, you're a nutritionist, you're a
Psychologist.
you're a protector, you're a psychologist. There are so many things that is expected of a teacher, and
I'll add one more thing, and you are so underpaid.
Yeah.
For it,
Yeah.
that to me is the responsibility that our teachers have for the salary that they get. I think it's pitiful. It really is.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that they should get paid more for what they do. Some people consider their hours that they're off by 3:30, but they're not. Even though the kids are gone by 3:30.
Hey, they spend their weekends grading papers and working on
into the
teaching
evenings.
plans.
And by the way, seldom do I see any of the teachers that I work with leave when after the kids leave. They go back into their classroom. They reorganize things. They get ready for the next day. Because let me tell you, there's no sitting at your desk preparing for that day once the children start arriving in the morning. You are greeting them at the door. You are already beginning to tend to the needs of those kids.
Yeah.
So they'll do that after hours. And like you said, they'll go home then and into the evening. They will also spend a lot of their own money buying manipulatives, things that they can use to, support their teaching efforts in the classroom and whatnot. So yeah, that's a whole other topic for a whole other show. But substitute teachers, that you got some good ones out there and you've got some not so good ones out there. And I've often said to Phil, when I come home, if I've had a particularly challenging class that day, I am a former educator. So I know how to manage the classroom. Also, a lot of it comes naturally to me. I think about the substitutes who just come in, and because here's the deal, you can I'm a certified teacher, but you can have substitutes that come just with a degree only. So there's been no real training. Okay, so I think to myself, how are those people coming in without any kind of training? There's orientation and they give you some helpful tips. But I just don't know.
Is it possible that there just aren't enough that are trained and certified available to fill those positions, so they have to go that route?
Yes, there's a little bit of that. Although I will tell you, this year compared to last year, at least here in FISD, there used to be a shortage of subs. But they seem to have gotten a pretty good handle on that now. It seems to be that where they're needing subs the most is at the high school level. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but here, my sister and I talked about this once before because she has subbed at the high school level. I have not. I don't know. I feel like those kids would eat me alive. I don't know that right? I just don't. And my sister said it's actually easier because it probably is to a certain degree, because when I go into the elementary school level, again, you're tying a shoe, you're teaching, you're having them go back to their seats. It's a very physical day. It's a very physical day,
right.
And it's a very busy day. You're lucky, if you could get to the bathroom. So, but I don't mind that. You know me. I like a busy day. But my sister was making a joke one time. She said, really, in high school, you just go make sure they don't leave the classroom. Just make sure they don't leave.
Or beat each other up.
I guess, or beat each other up.
Yeah.
And so, I have not. So I always see in the portal a great need for high school substitutes.
Well, the thing that's very common, I think, in the teaching profession is that there's lots of people that get their degrees in teaching, especially female teachers, that after several years of teaching, they want to raise a family. And also they take maternity leave. There's a need for substitutes. Mm-hmm. Then finally, when their children get of age, and especially when they can start to go to school, then they go back into the schools. So where do those substitutes come from? Those are the ones like yourself who taught for many years. Yep. You raise your family. Right. Now your kids are off to college, even high school and college. Now you can go back.
Right, exactly. And there are a lot of us like that out there, a lot of certified former educators who are subbing now. But then I don't know, you go to orientation, you kind of look around the room and you question some of the other people's motives for like why they want to sub. Is it just to put, and trust me, when I say pennies, just to put a few pennies in your pocket, that's all that it would be. But if it's a real interest and passion, or just I enjoy it. I mean, I sub a couple days a week, and I just love it. And now I've gotten to go back enough to the same schools to where the kids know me. They call me Mrs. Loic. If they can't pronounce Loic, they'll call me Miss L. And it's becoming, at first, substitute teaching felt like I was a guest in someone's home. But now that I've become more regular, it's becoming more comfortable.
A homie.
I'm home.
Yeah, you're part of the hood.
So, but I love it. And if you are qualified to be a substitute teacher, whether or not you're a certified or degreed or whatever the qualifications may be, but if it's something that you think you would be interested in doing, the teachers are always in need of good substitute teachers.
Contact the local, school district and find out. Are you all set with substitute teachers? Do you still need them?
Yeah.
Because my sister's been doing it. She was a teacher for 35 years, and she's been subbing for the past 15 or almost 20 years now too.
Wow. Yeah. Pretty much every day.
No.
Just when she can.
Just when she needs. She was a music therapist.
Oh. Okay.
And also, if they need a choral teacher or something like that, she's a little more specified.
Yeah.
But the important thing is that if they call her and she's got something else that she's doing, she has to say no.
Right.
Sometimes if you say no, like she feels badly, she says, because if I say no too many times, then they stop calling.
That's the thing. And a lot of times it is a little bit. So, I mean, sometime we should get here on the show a couple substitute teachers and a couple regular classroom full-time teachers. Yeah, I'd love to just talk about education today versus how it used to be. I think it'd be a great,
maybe during spring break or something. One of the shows that we have during spring break.
I think so too.
When they're not in the classroom, invite them in to say, to see their perspective of what the environment is all about today.
And I bet they'd have some funny stories to share. I'm telling you, I could talk well into the break about things that these kids say. I mean, I just have to laugh. They're just, but anyway, so that's where I've been. Yes, I've been subbing and enjoying it, but glad to be here on the show today.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. It always is. Not that I don't enjoy when Lauren.
I know
subs,
you and Lauren. Yeah.
She and she's here. She may be listening to the show right now because she's down in Florida with her mom.
Hi, Lauren.
In fact,
hope your mom's feeling better.
In fact, I got a note. Little note earlier. The previous show and also for this show, my son said he's listening.
Oh, great.
And you know where he is?
Where is he?
30,000 feet in the air. He's flying back from Madrid.
Oh, wow. He's listening to it? That's really cool.
And he's listening to the show. So we are not only national, but we are international.
Yes, we are.
And we are off the ground.
We're big time.
Yeah, we are.
We're big time.
We've hit it.
Yeah. Well, I do want to have that talk on education. And actually, I just got a message that if we do talk about education, they would like to hear us talk about year-round schooling and how the pros and cons of ... So let's
well, let me just ask you that just briefly, and how would you feel about that?
I'm just without like really looking at the statistics and looking at the facts and without really, because off the cuff I would have to say, and I might just be saying this because of what I am used to, but I don't know that I'm a big proponent of year-round schooling, just based on what but I don't necessarily think summers need to be necessarily as long as they are, but I just don't know about going to school year-round. I don't know. I'm really not answering your question.
What we were talking about earlier, I think, comes into play, because if to the thought of earning that same, pitiful salary 12 months out of the year, that would prevent some teachers who maybe have a good connection for the summer. So for 3 months during the summer or something, they do something else that is bringing more money into the bank.
Right.
That would preclude that. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's kind of better off the way it is.
Yeah.
For the kid's standpoint and for the teacher's standpoint. I can't.
There are a lot of arguments on both sides.
Well,
there's the cost of keeping the school district open year round. There's costs associated with that. There's also, you've got families that will push back simply because, they're, and it's a good point, embrace the family values, continue having that time for big chunks of family vacation time and traveling and doing whatnot, and that's important too.
How are you going to
How are you going to balance all that? I mean, there's that right there is a topic too that we could put under the umbrella of education and having our teachers talk about just their experiences in the classroom and whatnot, and how education has changed over the years, how schools have changed over the years. I mean, I taught in an open area concept, but we didn't. My classroom was not self-contained. For example, our third grade, we were all open. It was in one big wing of the building, and we may have just had maybe some bookshelves to separate, to define your space. But it was an open concept, And I didn't mind it. It was because it was my first year teaching.
Yeah.
Taught there 2 years. It was all I ever knew. Well, my student teaching was in self-contained. But anyway, my point is, under the umbrella of this topic, there are so many different, things we can discuss. Year-round schooling is probably something that we might even want to pull an administrative person in to discuss.
When I went to high school, we had summer school. It wasn't for everybody, but it was that opportunity. I wasn't a real good student, so I went to summer school every summer to take one class.
And
just
to keep you busy, just to keep your mind.
No, it was so I would take something like physics or biology or something that was a little tougher subject that I didn't want to have to add to my other routine.
Oh, I see. So you got credit for it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then when we went on to college, you kind of do that too, because if you took summer classes, that would mean you wouldn't have to carry as big a load.
Well, no, my kids have always done that in college. They'll take summer classes and get credit for. I didn't know that. I guess at college you could do that. I didn't. Oh, excuse me, high school.
In high school.
You could. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. So we'll have to. We're gonna put that topic in the parking lot, and we'll pull it out at another time because, we are gonna talk about the nerve of people. The nerve of us taking up so much time talking about a topic that wasn't even on.
You got a lot of nerve taking up all that time. Almost half the show is gone. You're still talking about education. What's wrong with you?
Well, I will tell you, education is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I for whatever reason, I've always been, and I taught, but really most of my professional career was spent at USA Today in marketing. But I've always had strong ties. Kind of like my dad has always had strong ties to the, football industry or what. I've always had strong ties to I've sat on many booster clubs and boards and PTAs and PTOs and, and now I sub. So, and of course, just the involved parent along the way. So it is a topic that I could talk about at great length. So sorry that I rambled a little bit there, but I do like what we're going to get on to today. And we've got time before the break to get started on it.
We can.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, we
it would be a little bit nervy of us not to.
Yeah, well, basically, you wanted to talk a little bit about nerve, or if you will, or etiquette and behavior in the workplace. That was kind of the underlying thing. There's so many. Again, there's a lot of different ramifications but behavior in the workplace has probably hit an all-time low. And
in what regard?
Well, the experience. I remember back when people used to really enjoy shopping. You would interact with the salespeople. Let's go way back. For instance, Sears. You would walk into Sears, and they had especially like in the hardware department. You go to a Sears hardware store, you could ask a representative there anything, and you knew you were going to get an intelligent, correct answer. Then fast forward a few years then you had to look for somebody to ask the question to. And they didn't know, but they'll try and get somebody for you. But basically today, unfortunately Sears isn't around, but if you go into a Home Depot or sometimes a Lowe's, you're on your own, baby. You just got to look for what you're looking for because you can't find people to really assist. So you're standing there reading the stuff on the back of the boxes to determine if this is really what you want or what you need. Mm-hmm. It's just gotten more self-help rather than getting to people that can answer your questions.
I hear you saying lazy employees. It was what I took away from that.
Some are lazy employees and some are just clerks.
I wouldn't say, in my experience, I just have to say, because Phil loves Home Depot. I don't know about Lowe's. We don't go there very often. I'm not saying anything against Lowe's. We just happen to be Home Depot people. But, when you do, I think the problem at a place like that is, back, you were going back in time when places of business were smaller, and it was just a little bit more, they could be more personal with you. Yeah. Now you've got these larger places like Home Depot. We're using that as an example. And I just think it's hard to find people because it's such a big place and there are so many customers. But usually when I find somebody at Home Depot, it's usually somebody who's retired, who is working now, who has a great interest in the whole building thing. And
you're right. Well, Home Depot has gone through a kind of a renaissance. And what they have done is that they have retrained their staff and their management to be more customer friendly.
Good.
And I have found sometimes if I go to a Home Depot and I say I got a plumbing issue, they don't say, "Oh, go down aisle 12."
Yeah.
What they'll do
They'll
is
they'll escort you.
Take you there.
Yeah.
And they may turn you over. Hey, Tom, this gentleman's looking for something to repair his toilet and all. Well, thank you very, very much.
Yeah. I have no problem there. I'll give a shout out to like Nordstrom's. I'll give a shout out to, I think Chick-fil-A has done the same thing in terms of really training their employees to be very customer service oriented.
Yep.
After everything you order or when you say thank you, they say my pleasure. So they're well-mannered employees. They're respectful. So there are certain businesses, yes, to your point, that are trying to kind of train and develop their employees to be very customer service focused.
Yeah, and I've told you that when I encounter a clerk, a salesperson, an entry level person, and all, and they don't provide that kind of kindness, or I don't really fault them. I fault management because management didn't teach them how to be customer friendly.
I agree.
And all, it's not the fault of that person.
Yep.
It's because like if you go to a place and the person is on the phone, they're talking to their best friend or they're texting and all, and you ask them, can I help you? Well, no thanks, I'm looking. Okay, if you need any help, I'll be sitting over here texting my best friend. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
To me, but I'm old school. But to me, that may be the last time I ever walk into that store.
Absolutely. For me, I agree with you. Service is very important. Obviously, going into we're talking retail right now. We'll get more into the workplace in terms of like professional buildings and what companies, corporations, organizations. But in terms of retail, I agree with you. Service is number one for me. The product, yes. The food, yes. Wherever the establishment, but service, I agree with you. The hamburger could have been great, but if my waitress was close to lousy in terms of her service, I'm not gonna run to go back to that place. So.
Yeah, or the next time you may call in an order for pickup.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have to deal with it.
Exactly.
We'll take a break. We'll come right back. We'll continue with our discussion and all about maybe arrogance in the workplace and nerve and those kinds of things. So we'll be right back with more of Something to Talk About.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all really just opened my bubble and just...
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
You're listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
Welcome to Something to Talk About, a lively hour of open discussion covering, well, anything and everything. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, husband, father, and military veteran, and Vaughn Loick, wife, mother, and best-selling author. Now, Something to Talk About. Stuart and Vaughn.
And we are back together again in the studio, sharing our thoughts and comments and nonsense and all with you. And glad you're with us. A lot of folks have been chiming in, and as I mentioned, even during the break, I got a note from my son who is listening to us from an airplane over the Atlantic Ocean. He's on his way back from a seminar in Spain, and he's listening to us. Modern technology.
I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Is that incredible that you can listen to
Yep.
us? I mean, how important are we?
We're pretty important. I said we're big time. We're big time now.
They go out of their way to listen to us, even up in the sky.
Yeah.
How about?
Okay, well, so listen, it's been a long time since I've been in the workplace. But when I was at USA Today, we had both offices and cubicles.
If you were in a cubicle, you were always hoping someday you'd get into an office.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Now cubicles today are different. They're almost like little mini offices because the walls are, perhaps even up to the ceiling, or they're higher, or they're, and then you've got nice big desk space and whatnot. But still, it's like working in, like I told you, I taught in an open area concept. It's like, so I just think that in that type of an environment, there are certain, there's certain office etiquette that should be followed,
right?
Just to be
Protocol.
A considerate co-worker of others around
Right.
you. I think the biggest problem, and I guess I'm calling it pet peeve, but I think it's very, nervy of people to not really respect the fact that you're out in the open, but yet you're just being loud and you're laughing, maybe even just maybe over exaggerating your laugh, or you're on the phone, or maybe you're even you've got some kind of tick and you're like, I don't know. There could be so many distractions. Yeah. Yes. I mean, there could be so many distractions in that type of working environment. And today, so many office buildings are kind of embracing that kind of open area concept. It's that trendy look now. You've got those desks that rise and lower depending on whether or not you want to stand or sit. And
Very often they are wearing headset telephone units, and so they may be carrying on a conversation with a client, and the client tells them a joke, and they're laughing, and you're trying to concentrate on something you're doing, and they're pacing back and forth in their little cubicle space, and
or
they're
even around
carrying
the
on
office,
a loud conversation because they don't hear themselves,
right?
They do hear themselves but they don't realize how far they're projecting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I find the same thing true when I go shopping at the grocery store, because there's always somebody that's carrying on a conversation, and while I'm trying to buy my groceries, I don't care about what Helen did with Tommy over the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. That's your conversation. It should be a private conversation. Why do you have to share it with me and the rest of the grocery store because it echoes?
Right. Well, in the workplace, it's even worse because you're trying to be productive.
That's right.
And I think for me, that was when I was at USA Today. We didn't have cell phone. Well, we did, but we weren't really walking around with the headsets. For me, it was more or less just kind of the open the chatter in the general open areas that would. But I also find it very for me, I found people who felt that their time was more important than yours. For example, you could be in your office and they would just wander in and sit in one of the chairs and and clearly you're busy and you're working, but they happen to be at a point where they could stop and come in and talk with you about one thing or another. And I don't know, I came across that a lot when I was working, is people who just didn't respect your time. I know Phil has said before, he always gets more done when he's working remotely from home than he does when he goes into the office because he's got options. He can either work from home or go in, because there are people that just don't respect your space and your time. And I find that, I always found that to be something.
Well, I'm that way too. I'm easily distracted. That's why if I want to read, I've got to be in a room that's completely empty, no TV on, nothing. And I used to have to study when I was in college at the library.
Yeah.
I had to have quiet. There are other guys that there could be a football game going on in the same room, and another bunch of guys that are playing poker in the corner, and they're sitting there reading, a book.
Right.
I've never been able to do that. And what it is it's disrespect on the part of the other person because they don't realize that you need a little bit of quiet and
right.
and solitude in order to carry on the job that you're trying to do.
Which would have been very difficult for you to have worked in a cubicle probably, because you would have been so distracted by all the sounds in the office. Yeah,
because I'm more connected.
You would have
to
said to your
what's
boss,
going on.
"Hey, I need that corner office because I'm easily distracted," and Stuart would have gotten the corner office.
Yeah. And today it's become accelerated because, as I said earlier, we used to have headphones like we're wearing now with the little speaker
right.
that you could talk,
Yeah.
so you could hear yourself in the conversation. But now they got these little earbuds that are also telephones, and so. Years ago, if you saw somebody walking down the street talking to themselves or something, you'd think there was something wrong with them. Now everybody's got their little earbuds and they're walking around, and whatever they're doing, they're carrying on a conversation.
Yeah, I mean a lot of things that happen in the workplace that people could find bothersome or annoying or whatever it's just really just common courtesy and just being aware that you're not the only one there and you need to respect everybody's space and everybody's work schedule and whatnot. What about, and today also it's a little different because there are so many people who work for companies and organizations that have been given the option to be able to work remotely from home or wherever. And so that's changed it up a little bit. But going into the working environment, into the place of business, what do you think about how dress code has changed or evolved over the years in the workplace?
I guess.
Would you agree that it has gone way casual?
Oh, yeah. But there are some. I guess there's companies that just feel. That's a very good topic because, for instance, when I was in business, first of all, when I first started in business with my father, I wore a tie and jacket. And
what was the business?
Every day we were in the retail business, and it was a fashion business, a little more upscale. We also, if you went to a restaurant on Saturday night, it might be a steakhouse, just might be a nice restaurant. You generally wore a nice collared shirt and a pair of slacks or so, and with or without a jacket at all. Today, even the fanciest steakhouses, you can walk in a T-shirt and jeans and get served because that ambiance has been reduced, because the dollar is more important. In the workplace, I assume that there are probably some people out there that would say, I don't really want to work for a company that requires me to get dressed up every day, because if they say that I can come in jeans and a blouse or a shirt, I'm more inclined to want to work for that company. Now, my daughter works for United Airlines corporate in Chicago, and they have a fairly relaxed code. If she knows she's having a meeting with somebody, then she will maybe dress up a little bit more for that day. But otherwise, it's the production of the employee more so than what they're wearing. Just like with how you wear your hair, if you got pink and purple hair, how does that affect your job?
Right.
If you're still doing the job, me as an employer, I would say I probably am going to look the other way because this is a productive person. However, if it's going against the image of that workplace, then maybe you got a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Dress based on your job description. I think that, to put it in a nutshell. I mean, there are some businesses, I'm just going to say, some that are more creative, advertising or something, I don't know, artsy, that
Sure.
perhaps maybe your dress should reflect what your job description.
You don't want to walk into an accountant's office and all the accountant's wearing a T-shirt and he's got tattoos all around.
So that's
his
just more respect. That's just more respect, and that also is just more dressing the part. Okay, and then that's fine.
Right.
So respect is one thing. Also, just appropriate dress, I think, is important too. But my point in telling you all this is I'm okay with casual dress. I'm okay with casual wear. I do think, like you said, if you know you're going to have an important meeting or something that out of the office perhaps, and you're meeting a new client, I just think it's respectful.
Well, it's an impression.
And even if you're going to stay casual, make it a dressy casual. But I think generally speaking, our dress overall has become so casual that it's sloppy. And that's where I have the problem. I don't have a problem with casual dress in the workplace. I have a problem with sloppy. And I certainly have a problem with if people cross the boundaries and we've got bellies open, like flip-flopping. I'm going to the extreme, but those type of things.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think about the dress code in our school systems today?
Okay, so I've thought about that because I always dress as a substitute. I wear slacks or pants. I don't wear jeans or sweats, of course not. Some schools allow their teachers to dress comfortably. What would they call it? Comfy casual?
Yeah.
Casual, comfortable. I don't even know what they would call it. But most of the time, the teachers are dressed very appropriately. Listen, if you're a kindergarten teacher and you're on the floor with these kids and you're bending down and you're tying shoelaces and you're helping someone, get a drink of water, lifting them up and this and that, dress I go back to dress per your job description. And so if that means wearing sneakers, nice sneakers, maybe, now we've got these wonderful, I'm wearing them now, these, kind of athletic wear. Again, you can be dressed casually and comfortably and presentably, but not sloppy. So I'm okay with the teacher. Ripped jeans, no, I think that's inappropriate.
And that's why I mentioned that, because I've gone to our grandson's school, and sometimes I see the teachers that are walking down the hall, and they've got the ripped out jeans.
That's where I would probably draw the line, just because.
And again, is it because the dress code is up to them, or is the school authorities saying, well, that's acceptable? I think it's up to management again. Like I said, in the workplace,
it very much is up to management.
If you have an image, I think you have to uphold that image. Whatever your business is, it's just like you wouldn't want to see, a police officer walking around with, the torn sleeves off of his shirt and that kind of stuff, unless he's undercover for something. But it has to be appropriate to the workplace,
right? They have actually done studies, and I actually believe in this. I've never read the study. I remember just reading it a long time ago, kind of the outcome of the study, which is it was something that basically, if you, like, say you work from home, and say you get up and you stay in your pajamas and you're conducting your phone calls and you're doing your computer work and you're even in your pajamas. Yeah. Well, they actually say that you're more productive if you actually dress.
Get dressed and stay home.
Yes, it's a mental thing. I mean, it's almost like if you dress up, you're going to perform up. And when I say dress up, I don't mean dress up in a tuxedo. I just mean if you dress up, put on clothes, and pull yourself together, you're going to mentally perform a little bit in that like that in that
you
mindset.
You also
And I actually believe that, because I'll tell you, if I'm in sweatpants and sweatshirt, I'm kind of loose. I'm kind of whatever. I'm like.
I mean,
You know?
before we went on Facebook and everything, that's the way you used to come to the studio.
But they changed the dress code here on me, so I mean, but I mean, mentally, I feel a little bit more comfortable and relaxed and whatever. So I do buy into that a little bit in the workplace. If you dress up, in quotes, up meaning just presentable, I think you're going to perform that way. If you're in your sweats and in your sweatshirt and whatever, you're going to have the tendencies to be just that day a little bit more relaxed and maybe not as sharp. Right. Just look, I'm not saying that you can't be sharp if you're wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Generally speaking. So I'm not a stickler and I'm not, a prude or anything, but I do think that we should have dress codes in the workplace. I think that some people can go to the extreme and wear something that might even offend somebody. You know how easily we are offended these days.
Yeah. But you see, if you're the principal of that school, then you want to kind of work with the other administrators to come up with a protocol that everybody will follow.
And just so you know, they do. They do.
So you don't have some teachers that come in dressed appropriately, and the others that come in with their ripped out jeans.
Right.
Another place that I think we're seeing a change in this kind of attitude is in churches.
Oh, yeah.
Generally, men always used to wear sport jackets and ties and get dressed up. Women would wear dresses, or they would wear nice pantsuits and all. But again, a lot of churches, the dress code is just, I was going to say it's gone to hell, but that's probably not an appropriate phrase to use when you're talking about churches. But it's like anything goes, because they would rather you come in a torn out T-shirt or a bare midriff and ripped out jeans than not come at all.
Yeah, again, I just think that overall our society has become very casual and lax in many different ways. Our behavior, we're not as polite as we used to be. We're just not. I mean, that's But I'm not the kind of person to be easily offended. So if I were still in the workplace and Sally Sue came in something that I wouldn't necessarily wear, or if I felt was pushing kind of the boundaries there a little bit, I would be aware of it, but it wouldn't affect me. And so I do think that while I have my own standards and opinions on dress code in the office, I wouldn't care so much about if something were pushing the boundaries. But I do think I would like to see, again, based on your job description, perhaps maybe dressing kind of a certain way Monday through Thursdays. And then I actually always loved the concept of casual Fridays. I thought that gave people a little bit of a taste of, kind of that fun. And it made Fridays special, and it made people maybe want to come into the office on those Fridays. It made it kind of fun.
Right.
I like that concept. I don't think they do that casual Friday anymore, because every day is casual. So
I think there's probably more instances now where they have dress up Friday, because it's casual the other 4 days of the week.
I know.
And so everybody gets dressed up a little more.
I'm going to touch on a subject that now is maybe a little bit more sensitive. Okay.
Oh, good.
So we're talking dress.
I love when you get sensitive.
So we're talking, dress code and all that, and we're talking just the environment of the workplace and just common courtesy, like, minding your voice level and all that, and interrupting people and all that.
Respect is the word.
So respect. It's really not that complicated. But behavior. Okay, we're in this hashtag era here, society. So again, I am not that easily offended. And when things were kind of really, really erupting and coming out, the whole hashtag, mind you, please, I'm going to preface this. There were many, many situations that came out, as obviously the ones I'm referring to are the ones that were big enough to make the news, that I felt were completely justifiable and absolutely wrong on whatever. But people started saying things like, oh gosh, I'm afraid to even greet somebody with a hug now, a man to a woman. I'm afraid to even look Sally Sue in the eyes anymore. Sally Sue might think I'm winking at her and making a pass, non-verbally or whatever. I worked 7 years at USA Today in cubicles and then later in an office. And so a lot of interaction both at corporate, regional, and I'm Italian. I'm a very touchy.
That's why you talk with your hands a lot. And I do greet people. If I'm talking to somebody, sometimes I'll even to get their I'll do this, or I'll get their attention. I'll say, "Did you know?" And that means nothing other than just And so by nature, I'm comfortable with that, but I understand not everybody is. But my point, also like shaking a hand, and then I go like this,
right?
Like
put another hand on top of the hand, right?
Right. I mean, I'm trying to be firm with that greeting and that handshake, and in certain circles, it's like, oh, that is a no.
Right.
You can't do
I
that.
can remember a time in particular. I was in one office, and there was a gentleman who worked in the office. A wonderful man, married, fine, perfect, wonderful man. But when he would come by, he'd put his hand on my shoulder and, how are you doing, whatever. I mean, not all the time. And again, some people might be listening to this saying, oh God, it wasn't like that at all. Now, some women, and again, it's not just man to woman. It could be a woman to a man, and the man is uncomfortable. I'm not picking any side. I'm just pointing out an example. I had no problem with that, but some people would. I guess behavior is something that is very personal. How you accept behavior, how you respond to behavior in the workplace is something that's very subjective and personal. Because if I were Sally Sue and that same man came and touched my shoulder, she could go running right over to Human Resources and say that he's touching her inappropriately.
Right.
But I took that completely differently. So how do you put your rule book together on that behavior in the workplace? It's pretty hard to put that in a black and white playbook, right?
Well, some corporations will do that. And where a corporation's standard operating procedure book, used to be about a half an inch thick, it's now 4 inches thick, because they have to spell out everything so that and then you have to, very often in the corporate world, you have to go through this page after page after page and reading all these rules and regulations, and then you sign on the bottom line that I will agree to abide by all of these regulations. Yeah. And the biggest problem that I have today is that we overlook bad behavior. Bad behavior has become acceptable in the workplace. That it's okay to call somebody else a foul name and get away with it. And then maybe 2 days later, you might apologize for it. But it should never happen in the first place.
I agree with you.
We live in an environment today where people are being bullied,
absolutely,
left and right, and all, and we turn our
very
heads the other way.
Phil has worked for multiple companies over the years, several, not multiple, several, and he's definitely been in the company of coworkers who use foul language, and they're in mixed company. It's completely inappropriate, and you're right. There's so much that is overlooked that should just be, because yes, we all sign with Human Resources how we're going to behave, and there's the obvious things. But to your point, there are the not so obvious things that people are doing and getting away with, and a lot of it just goes back to what we talked about, is just common sense, common courtesy, respect, and etiquette. My father, while we were talking, talked a lot about, or mentioned etiquette. It's a lot of it just like you had talked about.
I guarantee you ask a young person, what is etiquette?
Right.
They have no clue.
Yeah, you're right.
They have no clue what etiquette is.
You're exactly right.
Because it's just not important anymore. We've lost sight of the fact that etiquette in the work environment, etiquette in restaurants, etiquette in the neighborhood. It just,
and my dad was, we got to take a break, but my dad was, or excuse me, we got to end the show.
Is that the end of the show? Oh my
dad was talking about etiquette in the grocery store. Just not getting too close to the person in front of you checking out. Return your basket. If you get a product and you decide a couple aisles later that you don't want it, go put it back. I mean, etiquette. In the workplace. Anyway.
Funny you should say that. I was getting cereal and I walked down a cereal aisle, and there was some frozen meat that
Oh,
somebody
that's bad.
apparently decided they didn't want, and so they just put it in with the cereal.
Oh, that's pretty bad. Anyway,
Terrible.
we could go on and on as usual. We are never at a
know.
loss for words.
So I
but
guess the message that we're leaving with everybody is be respectful to one another.
Common sense.
It doesn't take
Common
it doesn't
sense.
take any time to do it.
Mind your manners.
That's right.
And don't be so judgmental.
That's right. And also one more thing, come back and see us again next week at 11 o'clock. Go out and make it a great weekend.